Protect your brand, product, or invention from the hazards of consumer product launching and go from idea to product to big brand with guidance from retail product design and development experts Tracy and Tom Hazard. Get the insider secrets to put the right things in the right order with the right resources so you can outdesign, outsource, and outprofit your way to retail success.
Hey there, this is Tracy Hazard with Product Launch Hazards, and we are on Planet. Not planet like circulating, the universe here, but plan it. Tom and I like to say that hope is not a plan. So this is a really critical point to do early. And in planning, we're going to talk about quite a few things. Planning as to the sort of life cycle of the product, like where are we going to start selling it? Where is it going to sell next? Where is it going to sell after that? And kind of watching what happens when it's successful. Where do we go with it? Also keeping in mind that we have a long-term plan of where we want to go from A to Z, if that's the case. So we might want to go from not selling anything to all the way to mass market retail and a huge brand that gets acquired. So kind of keeping those things in mind, those are part of our planning cycle. And the reason why we do this as our step 3 and really early on is because, again, this is one of those things that informs how we make something. So sometimes we have to make things in phases. Maybe we make it a beta version. You might have heard that term before. So we make a beta version and we plan to add features to it. And so that also plans our cost structure, like how much budget do we need for each thing, maybe how much capital we need to raise. So we really want to go on all of those things. So it's going to have a budget impact, a cost impact, an impact on our overall success. So we build up success in one channel and then we move on to another. And in this case, remember, we're talking channels. Channels might be mass market retail, might be club stores, might be HSN and QVC, or a channel might be e-commerce, Shopify, Amazon, Jet.com, any one of those places. But we also want to talk about forecasting. And forecasting is really looking at what's going to happen and how much am I going to have to buy scaling up. And you're also looking at the seasonal effect or promotional effect. So if you know you're going to do a direct response marketing campaign on month 3 of your product launch, then you really have an idea that I got to have a little boost in inventory here. Or if you're going to do an Amazon Lightning deal, you're going to run out of inventory and you need replenishment right away. So looking at that forecasting and sort of plan for those spikes and then inevitable dips. So you do have inevitable dips that will happen at various times of year. Retail as a whole, consumer retail, is very seasonal, always heavy in the last fourth quarter and in the fourth quarter of the year, right, gearing up towards the holidays. It's always like that. There's a big drop off in January, except for certain categories. So we see a big boost in sports related items in January. We see a big boost in gift card usage. So anything that might be sort of that discounted and on sale or something that's very personal that you wish you bought. Those things tend to go in January. And then TV stands and televisions go big in January because as you gear up for Super Bowl. So there's always a seasonal cycle that happens for every product category. And this is one thing that I want you to be really careful of. Those of you who are out there studying the Amazon sales, doing Jungle Scout or any of those other Unicorn Smasher or any one of those other tools out there, when you're looking at those tools, be sure that you're not looking at them at the wrong time. Be sure that you weren't looking at them just post a promotion or just post holiday or just during the holiday. Like if you were looking at them at Black Friday and use those numbers as your benchmark and your forecast and your plan, your numbers are going to be way overstated and you will never achieve those goals. So you really want to look at them at organic times of year. So that's what I like to do is like say, if it were selling in the middle of March, and it were selling at this rate, and that's still viable business for me, then that's perfect. Or the middle of summer for a winter product, right? Something that might be outdoor related for winter sports or something. You want to look at it in the off season and say, at its minimum turn level, is this still viable for me? Is this worth it? And or am I happy with just gearing up to fourth quarter sales and doing it with big spikes at those times and just not worrying about my inventory levels and keeping it really low for the rest of the year? It depends on how you want to run your business. It depends on how fast you want to grow and are you building a bigger brand. So really be thinking about those. And then those of you who are doing multiple products, here's another thing to really look at is the overlay of those forecasts in making ones that don't spike all at the same time, but ones that have different seasons involved in them. So these are many, many factors that we look at. when we are looking at our plan. The most important one is for us to preserve capital. So let's talk about that. Our percentage plan with reasonable timing expectations. So I think a reasonable prove it time frame. And this assumes that you might go through multiple iterations of proving. So you might try something, it doesn't work, you try it again. I say you need to have 5 to 10% of your overall budget. 5% if you're funding it yourself, and 10% if you have capital investment already. And the reason for that is because if you have capital investment, you have a bigger plan, so you need a little bit more market proof. So we're looking at it in sort of context as to that. I also think if you spend less than 3 months in that cycle of proving it, you're likely to not get great information. So you really want to be trying something out, making sure it's working, making sure the market wants it. Spend some time in that area. Spend 90 days to make sure that you're right about your idea, that the dogs really will eat the dog food. Then you don't really need to spend any money on pricing it. This isn't something you should hire a consultant for. It shouldn't cost you anything. But if you do want to hire someone to do some financial analysis for you, I would just lump it into your budget for Prove It. But we don't allocate any budgetary amount for Price It. It's just sort of like one of those things. We do a study in a week and we make a decision about it and we analyze the numbers and we set benchmarks. That's kind of an internal thing. This planning cycle, though, I again would allocate another 5%. And the reason we do that is because we want to really think about, we might want to get an outside opinion. We might want to pay for some more better forecasting services. We might want to pay to make sure that we have premium plans on some of the tools instead of free plans. Prototyping it, obviously you want to reserve quite a lot of it for the prototyping it, which we haven't talked about, but that's coming up next. And we want to reserve 30% if we're funding it ourselves and 60% if we've got outside funding. Because if we've got outside capital, it's likely that it has much more higher innovative features and things like that we will need a higher prototyping budget on. And, this still isn't a tremendous amount of money in prototyping. I mean, if you think about this is research and development. So overall, between the two stages, you're spending 40% on all your research and development. That's like very, very small if you consider big brands that do really well and have the highest profitability margins like Apple and other places like that. The next area is protect it, and protect it is patenting and trademarks and all of those things. And initially, if you spend more than 10% on your patent costs and on your legal fees and all of those, then you are way overspending in these early days. You really need to keep that cost low as possible in the early days until you know you have a product that's worth it. And then after like 1 year, be spending additional money, but you know you have a market, you know you have a product that's selling. If though you have investors or capital, you might want to go up to 20% because they may insist, because they want international distribution, that you file your international patents, which can be costly. And then we go to produce it, 50% of your budget, or a very large new capital funding. So this is the time to get more capital in. But 50% of your budget needs to be in the production phase. And the reason why you need to do that is because you need to make sure that you've got those inventory carrying costs we talked about, be able to last 3 months or 9 months. And then in addition to all of that, like consider that your launch budget. If that's $100,000, you've broken it all out. 5%, 5%, 30%, 10%, 50%. So that adds up to 100%. Now you need one more. You need 10% additional minimum on advertising and promotion every single month. So whatever your sales are, you need to allocate at least 10% of it. That is the smallest I would go. I'd say probably 20% is more likely in today's world that you need to spend more money, but you need to, in the early days, make sure it's converting. But have an additional, expect 10% of your sales to be going constantly back into marketing and brand building and advertising and all of those things to really get your brand known. It's the best way to get your brand acquired at the end of the day. So I hope that really helps you really think about the plan and the structure of everything so that you really can make it into a plan that is viable and gets you to your end goal of an acquirable brand.